Hello and a very warm welcome to ET Studios Behind the Firewall, SonicWall's vision for APJ's cybersecurity future. This is presented by SonicWall and is in association with ETCISO. I'm your host, Himanshi Tiwari. Now, for this special session, we are joined by Jayant Gumaraju, who is the Senior Vice President of SonicWall's Cloud Secure Edge Division. Thank you so much, Jayant, for joining us today for this conversation.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, Jayant, you have been in this field for so long. You've been behind such groundbreaking technological innovations. You founded Banyan Security, which is now part of SonicWall. Right? I want to start by understanding what drew you into this field in the first place and what keeps you going in this field. Like, what keeps you exciting as well?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, to be frank. The history goes back to I was doing my PhD back in the day at Stanford University, where I was building large-scale distributed systems, and there were a lot of fun parts to it. But the application of the distributed systems was something that was pretty exciting to me. And then I joined VMware, which is a well-known virtualization company. And then there were like two big trends that were going on. One was the applications were now leaving the VMware stack to go to the cloud. And then, so there was big cloud native movement, if you will. And the second big thing was VMware acquired a company called AirWatch. It was more about mobile device management and about remote workers and stuff like that. And so it was obvious that this was going to change the way in which people need to access anything, for that matter. And so that was a big motivation to start Banyan. And so we got together and started Banyan. It was a wonderful journey through that process. And then, after building it for several years and having a lot of fun years, I guess, selling to a lot of customers and so on, we were fortunate to be acquired by SonicWall and be part of the next generation of network security.
Thank you for sharing that wonderful journey with us. As you rightly said, you've been part of so many different projects, organizations as well in your career. But when we talk about now, what are those drivers that are changing the landscape of network security currently?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like as you said before as well, like network security is a really constantly changing landscape. And if you just look at the last, I would say, 2 to 3 decades, there was a big movement towards the cloud, which we talked about, 10, 15 years back. And I think one of the biggest things that have happened in the last decade is around remote work. So, COVID happened and suddenly people were remote. And then how are you going to access your resources? And things like VPNs that were built for a very different world before no longer scaled. And so you ended up in this weird position where you had to find new ways to do things. And the third major thing, which is, I guess, more recent than anything else, is Gen AI. As you can see, it's created a huge impact in terms of the kind of threats that it creates and the kind of threat landscape that it has suddenly started taking over. So those are I would say, the big trends that are going to drive the future of network security.
Yeah, rightly said, as these threats are becoming more sophisticated, we are seeing new technologies. And as you're talking about Gen AI and cloud, cloud has been there for so long, but it is now we have started talking about cloud like normal. Like for you guys, you've been talking about cloud for so long, but for us, we have started talking about cloud just now. When we use our iPhones, we talk about cloud, and this is how we know about cloud, right? But moving on to the next question, Jayant, we have been listening to so many people in the cybersecurity space talking about zero trust and SSEs, right? So if you can explain to our audience what are these two terms and why is it essential? Why are these terms essential for the entire network security space?
Yeah, that's a great question. Zero trust is basically don't trust, always verify kind of a concept. I think a good way to explain it is probably thinking of it as, so let's say you have a refrigerator at home that needs to be repaired. So you would call a refrigerator repairman, and you would, if you're not at home, you'll give him the keys to the entire house. So that's the way security was done in the past in terms of VPNs. You give the keys to the kingdom and say, someone come and take care of it for me. So he would go into the refrigerator, the same time go take a nap on your bed, if you will, for a little bit, and so on, right? So that became that there is no way to control what anybody does once they're inside your house. That's where zero trust kind of principles, if you define it in a computer science language without any
Yeah,
marketing
yeah, yeah.
buff around it. It's basically least privilege access. So the whole idea is to provide access to very specific resources for only the duration you need it. And that becomes the foundation for a lot of good security hygiene and good security practices. Uh, that concept was kind of integrated into what you call SSE or Security Service Edge. So that was a term that was created by Gartner to kind of like appreciate the fact that there is a lot more cloud native services that are coming in. So the network is no longer, like the physical network. It's, the perimeter is no longer there. And so it needs to be moved into the cloud, and all the services need to be in the cloud. So that kind of bringing these two concepts together is what's shaping the next generation, if you will.
All right. But moving on to the next question, with the acquisition of Banyan Security, you have brought in new capabilities to the fold, right? So, how are you sort of enhancing the security landscape in the company, in the current role that you are in for your customers?
Yeah, you know, at Banyan, we developed some really cool things that we are really proud of. And as a small company, your reach is only so far. And come SonicWall, they have over 17,000 partners and an amazing customer and partner base. And so leveraging that distribution has been a huge deal for us. And so now suddenly, uh, we recently announced that the Cloud Secure Edge, which is the division and which is where our product is now part of every firewall. So the tens of thousands of firewalls that we sell every month or so now has this capability in it where you can suddenly get zero trust capabilities for access. And that's a huge deal. And that's something that's super exciting. And that's kind of what we are doing together right now.
All right, with your role in VMware, as you told, with Banyan Security, with SonicWall now, what role do you see cloud native solutions playing in the future of network security?
that's the that's the future, I guess, in so many ways, right? Like if you think about the perimeter, the way it is defined right now, it's the definition of having a physical perimeter is no longer there. And so people are working from home, people are working from airplanes, people are working from the Bangalore traffic out here. So at any point in time, you're trying to work. And so cloud native solutions become the foundational piece for all types of future development. And so that's kind of where we're headed.
You were talking about Cloud Secure Edge division that has now been created. So, how are you in this division, and how is this division keeping up with these innovative, sophisticated threats that are evolving almost daily?
Yeah, so there are a few pieces to it. One piece is obviously about, like bringing the two solutions together, like what SonicWall used to offer and still offers a great firewall and other components to become the next generation platform with that of the zero trust capabilities that Banyan has. So as I said, we've integrated our solution into every firewall. So that becomes the starting point for a lot of the future offering in this respect. That lays the foundation for your hybrid deployments. Like if you have on-premise and cloud, what's the best way to secure it? All of those start coming into play. And then as you start taking these cloud native capabilities to the next level, we talked a little bit about AI and Gen AI and their implications to this world. And that's another thing when it comes to like, threats, the new threats that are getting generated and all that. You need really good threat intel. And that's again something that SonicWall is really good at and has developed over the period of several decades. So all of that will come together to secure and help our partners, which is what our primary goal is out here.
Yeah, and this is how actually you're staying agile in this fast moving world, and the evolving threats that we are seeing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think focusing on like preventive security, if you will, is critical, which I told you about zero trust and providing access to only what you need. And the other part is doing it continuously, like repeatedly, like in real time. The best way to think about security, or the best way in which security can succeed, if it's in the background.
Yeah.
People should not realize it is there, but it should actually be acting on your behalf every second. And that's kind of what we are trying to aspire to do out here. And that's something that's exciting.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all those perspectives. It was great talking to you, Jayant. But to sum up, like before asking the last question, to sum up for our audiences who might not be pro in cybersecurity, the business owners who don't know much about cybersecurity, I mean, they do know there's something called cybersecurity and we need to keep our systems safe from such threats. But what exactly does it mean and what all threats can we face in our businesses? If you can just sum the entire conversation for them in very layman terms.
Wow. Okay, that's a hard
I
one.
think that's your test as well. I first set the context that, see, you have been a prolific leader, now give your test.
Yes. It's one of those things where there is I think we've been facing security related things all our lives in different places, whether it is people stealing things from you in physically and people like attacking you in different ways in again physically. So all these are now, if you think about it, getting virtualized because it's not really you as a
Yeah,
person, but it's
correct.
now your assets, your resources that are there in the cloud, that are there on your phone, your personal data, and so on. Now suddenly getting attacked or suddenly getting phished, and all of these other scams that are happening behind the scenes, happening at a scale that you've never thought of before. That's what cybersecurity is right now. That's where we need to succeed.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing this with us and actually breaking this entire conversation into very simpler form for all our audiences. But as we are wrapping up this conversation, Jayant, what are those innovations and advancements in the cybersecurity space that you feel will have an impact in the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, I think I've kind of like hinted at them, but I think that I would say still, making everything much more cloud native is probably a really critical thing because the perimeter will continue to fade, and having much more cloud native presence is critical. And the other one is definitely going to be Gen AI. If you think about like, I don't know, you've probably seen a lot of videos now where people are able to talk like other people. People are able to like create videos like talking like, like seeing like other people. And these are the kind of threats that are just going to get worse and worse with time. So kind of like going back to the foundational principles of how do you secure
Yeah.
people in these environments will become the foundation for the next generation of cybersecurity.
All right. And what can we expect from SonicWall in this regard?
Yeah, so SonicWall is doing a lot on the cloud native side, as we've already talked about. Like we are bringing a lot of cloud native capabilities to the firewall, if you will, to kind of like do a lot in the cloud. And Gen AI is getting integrated into different pieces within SonicWall as we speak, and not going to talk too much into the future, but that's going to be something that we're going to get more and more into our products as well as with time. So,
all right. Thank you so much, Jayant, for sharing those perspectives and breaking it down into simpler terms for our audiences as well to understand better. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. To our audiences, stay tuned for more such videos only at ET Studios.